The Story of Two Mice, an Iguana, a Cricket, and a Tuna Sandwich. Written and illustrated by Sophia Micciche. Once upon a...
We lost your voice.
Can you hear me? Once upon a time, there was a tower. It was quite a regular tower, except for the fact that a princess mouse lived there. Her name was Penelope. She had lived there since she was small, and her only companion was her pet dragon. He looked quite a bit like an iguana, named Vinci. Vinci had helped her learn all of the most important subjects. They tackled math, science, and languages, also rock climbing, fencing, and flower arranging. They never did quite master fire breathing, although Penelope assumed Vinci would be a master. But one day, Princess Penelope began to feel quite restless. "We've done everything," she exclaimed, stomping about the room. Vinci held up the book he was reading. It was titled Beasts and Their Weaknesses. On the page was an image of a ravenous beast attacking a castle. It was labeled Cat. The paragraph next to it said in detail how to defeat such a creature. "You're right, we haven't learned how to beat such a beast, but I don't know where we would find one on such short notice," said Penelope. Vinci nodded.
Sophia, show us your pictures. After you show us the pictures.
Princess Penelope sighed. "I'm very bored," she said, "and I think it's time for us to leave this tower. So if you could just please lift the roof up, that would be lovely." Vinci wasn't sure where in the world they were going, but he stood up and hefted the roof up at a slant. There was just enough room for a mouse and her iguana to get out. The two climbed up, out, and down the tower using Penelope's climbing gear. When they reached the dirt road, they began to walk, even though they didn't know quite where they were going. Vinci was just following Penelope, and Penelope was just following the road. The road didn't have any control as to where it was going, as it was a simple road. A bit farther along the simple road was a mouse knight riding a noble steed, a cricket named Cornelius. The knight was called Arthur. Princess Penelope and Vinci had been walking for quite a long time when they ran into Arthur and Cornelius. "Oh, hello," called Arthur to the Princess Penelope. His whiskers twitched. They always did that when he was nervous. Princess Penelope did not feel like stopping to chat. She had places to be, but just to be polite, she said hello back. Vinci and Cornelius said nothing. They just glared at each other. Iguanas, pardon me, dragons, and crickets don't get along too well, as one likes to eat the other. Said Arthur, stopping by the princess. Did you happen to pass a tower along this road?" Arthur's whiskers twitched viciously. Asking for directions made him nervous. In fact, most things made him nervous. Princess Penelope, who didn't feel nervous in the slightest, just annoyed, gave a huff and answered the knight. "Yes, the tower is just a bit further." Penelope hoped this was all. "Oh, good," said Arthur. "I've been sent there by the king, and Cornelius and I have been walking all day to get there." Penelope wrinkled her nose at the word king. After all, her father, the king, was the one who had sent her to the tower. "Why do you have to go to the tower?" asked the princess. Arthur's whiskers suddenly seemed to have a life of their own. "Well," said Arthur, "I'm going to rescue the princess from the tower." Princess Penelope nodded her head slowly. "Interesting," she said, "because I am a princess, and I've just come from the tower." Arthur blinked twice. "That is interesting," he said. They were both quiet for a minute. Then slowly Arthur said, "Do you think it's possible that the princess I'm going to save is the very same princess as you?" Penelope nodded her head. "It's highly likely, yes." "Which means," Arthur continued, "that I don't need to walk to the tower?" Penelope blinked. So did Vinci. So did Cornelius. Arthur only twitched. "That would be correct," said Penelope at last. "Oh," said Arthur. "Well, good. I suppose I will be a disgraced knight, but it doesn't matter." And with that, he slid off of Cornelius, took a sandwich out of his bag, and began to eat it. "Well, if that's all," said Penelope, feeling puzzled. Vinci started back down the path, Penelope and Vinci started back down the path, but for some reason unknown to Penelope herself, she felt that she must turn around again. So she did. "Why," she asked of Arthur, "are you a disgraced knight?" Arthur looked up from his sandwich. "Oh, well, because I can't complete my mission," he said. "And why?" continued Penelope. "Does it not matter?" Arthur smiled and held up his sandwich. "Because Because, he said, I have a sandwich. Penelope blinked very hard. Why don't you come back with me and Vinci, she said. I'm heading the same direction as the castle. Arthur got up. All right then, he said. As long as he got to eat his sandwich, he would be happy. So Penelope, Vinci, Arthur, and Cornelius all began to travel again. Along the way, Penelope told Arthur about her search for a vicious beast. Arthur couldn't understand why anyone would search for vicious beasts, but he respected Penelope nonetheless. Arthur told Penelope how he was a disgraced knight even before he left the kingdom. He told her all about his least favorite things. This included danger, fear, and monsters. Penelope didn't understand how anyone could hate being a knight, but she still listened to Arthur. Suddenly, Arthur said, "Oh, look at the bend in the road. That means we're almost there." His whiskers began to twitch again. The closer they got to the castle meant the closer he was to being disgraced. But Penelope walked faster. She looked at Vinci, who made a sort of cooing sound as if to say, "Why, yes, it is exciting, isn't it?" Then he went back to keeping one eye on Cornelius. Soon the castle was in sight, but it was not the view any of them was expecting. Fires flamed up from every turret of the structure. Now citizens were running to and fro in a panic. Chunks of stone fell down from the castle and landed on the drawbridge, creating massive holes. Arthur and Penelope both gaped at the sight. Cornelius whinnied, and she blinked. "What do we do?" asked Penelope, looking at Arthur. Arthur immediately grabbed his bag off of his shoulder. After fishing around inside of it, he pulled out another sandwich. He had finished the first one. Then he proceeded to eat the sandwich. Penelope turned from the castle to gape at him. "What?" said Arthur through a mouthful of sandwich. "Would you like a bite? It's tuna." Vinci suddenly made a worried noise. Penelope followed Vinci's antsy gaze back to the burning castle. There she saw a terrifying creature. "Meow," said the creature in a thundering roar. Arthur blinked. He swallowed his bite of sandwich. He put the sandwich away. His whiskers stayed stock still. "What," he asked, "is that?" Penelope didn't take her eyes off of the creature when she said, "A cat." Arthur nodded. "Oh." Penelope and Arthur stared up at the roaring creature, terrified. But Vinci suddenly began nudging Penelope's bag. "What is it, Vinci?" asked Penelope. She opened up the bag, and that's when she remembered. "The book!" Princess Penelope exclaimed. "Vinci, you're brilliant!" Vinci blushed. "What book?" asked Arthur. Penelope didn't answer. She just opened Beasts and Their Weaknesses to the page about cats. After a quick scan of the page, Penelope and Arthur made a plan to defeat the cat creature. Most of the people had run away by now, so they knew they would have to do it alone. Penelope mounted Vinci, and together they climbed the remains of the castle. They climbed until they were eye level with the meowing monster. "Hey!" called Penelope to the cat. "Row?" growled the cat, looking up at them. "Come and get us!" shouted Penelope. The cat's eyes widened wildly. It roared a terrible ear-splitting roar, and then he pounced after Vinci and Penelope. The two ran down the castle wall and out the castle door with the cat right behind them. They ran right past Arthur and Cornelius, who were waiting by the door. Arthur had his hand in the air, and in it was the tuna fish sandwich. He was looking awfully twitchy. "Here, kitty, kitty," Arthur whispered nervously. Upon noticing the sandwich, the cat slid to a stop. Its face was inches away from Arthur's. Arthur couldn't move. "Oh no," muttered Penelope to herself. "He's too nervous." Penelope stood on top of Vinci's back and yelled, "Arthur, go!" Arthur's ears perked up, and then Cornelius was running and Arthur was hanging on, the sandwich high in the air. "Meow," said the cat as he pounded after the sandwich. "Ah," said Arthur. Then Cornelius leapt into the air and Arthur threw the sandwich as far as he could, right into a large puddle. "Meow," cried the cat as he jumped after the sandwich, landing into the puddle. The four cheered. Vinci and Cornelius smiled at each other. Then they all hid behind a tree to watch the beast. The cat made some sputtering noises as he climbed out of the puddle. He walked off down the road, bedraggled and soaked. "Come on," said Penelope, motioning towards the castle. "My sandwich," pouted Arthur. "We'll get you a new one," smiled Penelope. After that, the four walked back to the castle. They found the king and a group of knights huddled together in the kitchen. There was an initial awkwardness between the king and Princess Penelope, but it soon wore away. Penelope told the king about the cat and how they were able to defeat it with just a tuna fish sandwich and a book. Quite impressive, said the king. Here's a round old mouse with thick whiskers. I suppose you will all need rewards. So all of their wishes were granted. Vinci was given a vast library so Penelope could find new adventures to experience. Cornelius became quite a fat cricket as he was granted a lifetime supply of carrots. And he also started up a classical band and played all the king's royal balls. Arthur had never really liked being a knight, so he retired from that once his name was cleared. The king named him Royal Sandwich Maker, and he spent the rest of his days making sandwiches, which suited him nicely. Penelope, Vinci, Cornelius, and Arthur all stayed friends, and they were all happy. Now, whatever happened to the cat, please? Well, the cat walked him off until he came upon a fisherman. The fisherman, who was a bit lonely, took care of the cat and fed him tuna sandwiches until the end of his days. So he was happy too. The end.